Abracadabra. You've heard it a million times, right? It's the classic sound of a magic trick. But what if I told you the real story behind that word isn't about pulling a rabbit out of a hat? It was literally a matter of life and death. Yeah, we all picture the magician in the top hat, little puff of smoke. It's all just fun and games before the big illusion. But that whole image, that's a pretty new invention. It's just a faint echo of the word's original and much, much more serious purpose. You see, abracadabra wasn't a magic word for a show. It was a magic word for survival. For centuries, actual doctors prescribed this word as a legitimate cure for a deadly disease. So that's the real question, isn't it? How in the world did a medical charm become a party trick? To figure that out, we have to go way back. We're talking nearly 2,000 years, to a time when medicine and magic were, honestly, pretty much the same thing. Okay, so our story really kicks off with this guy, Quintus Serenus Semenicus. And he wasn't some kind of quack. He was a very respected Roman physician. And he's the first person we have on record who wrote down the prescription for using abracadabra as a healing tool. In his medical text, the Liber Medicinalis, he wasn't prescribing this for, a common cold. He prescribed it for something called semi-tertian fever, what we now know as a severe and often fatal form of malaria. This was a desperate measure for a terrifying illness. But how was a single word supposed to cure malaria? Well, it wasn't just about saying it out loud. The real power, they believed, was in a very specific ritual, and it all centered around this iconic triangular shape. The entire ritual was based on this principle called sympathetic magic. Now, it sounds complicated, but the core idea is super simple. Like affects like. The thinking was, if you make the word itself physically shrink on a piece of parchment, you could make the disease shrink inside the patient's body. And the ritual was incredibly precise. First, the word had to be written in that descending triangle. Then, the patient had to wear it as an amulet for 9 straight days. Finally, on the 10th morning, before sunrise, they had to toss it backward over their shoulder into a stream that flowed east, symbolically parrying the illness away for good. That triangle shape was just loaded with symbolic power. For some people, the vanishing letters literally shrank the disease. Easy enough. Others saw it as a kind of funnel, siphoning the sickness right out of the body. And on top of all that, it was seen as a protective shield, something to ward off the evil spirits they believed caused the illness in the first place. And if this powerful word magic didn't work, well, the Liber Medicinalis had a plan B, and it got a little intense. We're talking about applying lion's fat to the body or wearing talismans made of emeralds wrapped in cat skin. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how seriously they took these remedies. So how did we get from lion's fat and malaria cures to stage magic and card tricks? Well, you could say the word itself performed its own great disappearing act, right out of the world of medicine. I mean, the word's journey is pretty wild. For over 1,000 years, it was a medical tool. Then, by the 17th century, it was basically laughed at as pure superstition. By the 19th century, it had found a totally new home on the stage. And now, here in the 21st century, it's actually being reclaimed for a whole new kind of magic. The big turning point was the Enlightenment. As science and reason started to advance, practices like this were discredited, seen as nothing but old wives' tales. Medicine left the word behind. But performers, who were always looking for a bit of mystery and spectacle, they picked it right up. It just had that perfect, ancient, mystical sound to it. But the story doesn't end there. In this really fascinating twist, the word is making a comeback, not as a medical cure, but based on what a lot of scholars now think is its original and incredibly powerful meaning. Now, its exact origin is still up for debate. Scholars have traced it back through a few ancient languages, some link it to Hebrew or to a Gnostic deity named Abracaxa, but the most influential theory, the one that has really captured the modern imagination, points to the Aramaic phrase abracadabra, and its meaning is a total game changer. I will create as I speak. Just think about that for a second. That is a statement of pure manifestation. It's the idea that our words, the things we say, have the power to actually shape our reality. And this is the definition that is fueling the word's modern revival. So this brings us to a really cool comparison. The ancient school was all about banishment, getting rid of a physical disease or casting out evil spirits. Today, the goal is about transformation, It's about using the word's creative power to manifest goals or to banish things like self-doubt and negative energy. The function has evolved, but that core belief in the power of a word is still there. So what does this look like in practice today? Well, people are using it as a verbal trigger to focus their intentions. The triangle is back, but now it's being used in two directions: descending to banish negativity, and get this, ascending to build positive energy. And just like in ancient Rome, it's still being used as a protective ward on doorways or worn as a personal talisman. So, from a Roman physician fighting malaria to a modern practitioner manifesting a new goal, the power of abracadabra has always been fueled by one single thing: belief. Which kind of makes you wonder, if belief is the true engine of its power, has its magic ever really disappeared at all?